WN out in Kansas City, Missouri for the Ravens in a tall test for Lamar Jackson and or Joe Flacco or whatever is out on the field. But certainly a very, very good football team of Andy Reid's waiting out there, as well as some drama last week with Kareem Hunt, which keeps all the beat writers busy. Lynn Worthy covers all things Chiefs as the beat writer for the Kansas City Star. You can find him at L Worthy Sports as well. Lynn, good day, man. How are things out there in Kansas City this week?
It's going good, just getting ready for another week. Ideally a little less eventful than last week, but you never know with the NFL.
Well, I mean, let's run into that first, because we'll talk about the on-the-field drama and how it relates to this, but I've talked a lot about this. I ran into Scott Pioli in Atlanta the other day, and he ran the place out there. I was there the day that they cheered Matt Castle getting stretchered out, and Eric Winston went nuts, and the planes were flying over. Fired Pioli, and then you had an incredible tragedy in the parking lot there with that franchise, and I guess all the franchises have their own ghosts, but nothing larger and more recent than that. So, a zero tolerance, a part of the world where that's expected, a part of the world where Andy Reid lives a clean life and believes in that sort of thing. Just sort of a lot of upheaval for an organization where everything was trending the right way there as of last week, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything was, like you said, going in the right direction. I mean, I think, as a matter of fact, it dawned on me at some point at the end of last week, just where the week started, because, they come off the bye. And Tuesday night, there was actually a event that I went to where Patrick Mahomes surprised a youth team with, a youth football team with, a check through Dick's Sporting Goods, and they none of them knew he was going to be there, and they went on this shopping spree, and it brought tears to the eyes of the administrator for the league and the coach. And then you end the week on Friday with the news with Kareem Hunt. So, things were going. Everything seemed to be going just the way you would probably want it. Mahomes had sort of been taking the city by storm and the league by storm, and then with Kareem and that video coming out, it seemed like all of a sudden it was, obviously they're going to push forward, but there was definitely a somber tone to the weekend, and even with the win they had in Oakland.
Well, and then there's how it relates to the football team, right? Like a guy who was popular, a guy that was liked, a guy that was valuable, and also this wasn't an injury or, something that happened within the framework of the game where he blew an ACL. This was a full-on drama that, when the Entertainment Tonight group shows up and when you're making regular news stories and not just SportsCenter, you've gone outside the bounds. And hey, Lynn, I mean, I remember all the Ray Rice, all that brought here, and it certainly that story brought Ray Rice back, out of hiding. And he was actually on the field with the Ravens 3 weeks ago as part of a reunion effort that they did, bringing players back kind of quietly, was on the field as an honored Raven. I saw him at the game. So I don't know what the shelf life is on this, but certainly that video's not going to go away. That young lady's not going away. And the Chiefs have sort of washed their hands of this to some degree and said, we're moving on. You lied to us. Now, what does that do to the football team?
Well, as far as the football team, I mean, for one, as productive as he was, he led the NFL in rushing last year. He was, this year, one of the top producers. I think the number was over 1,200 yards from scrimmage between rushing and receiving. Or definitely over 1,000. I forget what the exact number was.
Well in excess of 100 yards a game. That's a serious number.
Yeah, total offense when you put in the rushing and receiving, yep. And he was one of those guys who was an energy guy. I mean, some of the highlights earlier this season, him hurdling guys, him with multiple touchdown games, and he'd been one of those guys who was, it's tough to say how close exactly him and Mahomes were, but they definitely were, same draft class. And Kareem had talked about during one of the games earlier this season, or after one of the games earlier this season, how when they came in together as rookies, they had talked about going in the future and taking over sort of the Chiefs kingdom, as they like to call it around here. And it looked like they were on their way to doing that after the year he had last year and the way Mahomes started this year.
And that's a quick exit, right? Like literally, that's not an injury where he's coming back next year. He's gone, man. Boom, right in the middle of this run. That's a psychological thing as well as a real thing that you have to play through here. And these are all young. This is a team made up. This isn't a grizzled team that's won playoff games. This is just the best team right here, right now. Where are they going to be in 4 weeks is the question, right?
Yeah, and I think the one thing that you're just talking about from a football standpoint, that could sort of give you a boost. I mean, it's obviously different, but when they get Sammy Watkins playing again, and then there's the pending return of Eric Berry, I think those things emotionally, different positions and things like that, but just in terms of when you talk about the mental side, the emotional side, I think those will give a boost to this roster. And then obviously they'll have to make adjustments offensively just for that loss of production and do things a little bit differently.
Lynn Worthy covers the Kansas City Chiefs. That's where we're headed this week. Luke will be out in Owings Mills. All of our WNSD coverage brought to you by our friends at Strategic Factory. They make hats, they make koozies, they make cups, they make anything that markets your business with a strategy behind that. If you need signage, printing, branded apparel, find our friends at Strategic Factory. For Mahomes and for this gaudy numbers, I do this for a living like you do, and every week we talked about Atlanta last week and where Matt Ryan was, and before that at Oakland, and all the weeks back, you look up and see 41 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. It looks like Tom Brady's coming to 10. Those are the kind of numbers, and what we've seen from him in not a rookie year, but sort of a redshirt thing that happened there with Alex Smith, and now the gruesome end for him, and then Colt McCoy, and where we are with our quarterback thing. This is a pretty tasty matchup, right, with Lamar Jackson coming in and Mahomes for where the Ravens would want this to be in the future, and Deshaun Watson and Jared Goff. We watched Carson Wentz the other night sneak out a victory against the Redskins as well. These young quarterbacks, it's just all changed in a week where Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers are getting together to play football, and their game doesn't matter,
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes has obviously got off to, a historic start. I mean, I don't know if I was, in another city, if I'd want to be comparing whoever the young quarterback is to Mahomes, just because, he's done stuff that not many, if any, have done, whether it was he set a record for touchdowns in his first I forget how many games, and then, he's the fastest to 4,000 yards now, and he's on pace to probably get to 50 touchdowns, which, that's been Manning and Brady, and they were both MVPs the years they've done that. So, I mean, this is his first full year as a starter. He played one game last year. So to compare other young quarterbacks is, he sort of set a high bar, with obviously still games to come, so, you don't know how it's going to finish. But I think the matchup that's really intriguing to me isn't so much the quarterback matchup, even though that's sort of the one that, you play up going into the game, but just how Mahomes and this offense matches up with that defense, because, I mean, the Ravens, I think, coming into this week are, fewest yards per game, not giving up second fewest passing yards. So, I mean, this is going to be a challenge.
Well, the issue for the Ravens was they were so tired by week 8 and 9 and 10 before the bye. I mean, they have looked like a different team since the bye because this offense is taking the air out of the ball and the defense isn't out there slogging around for 80, 90 snaps a game. They're playing 40 snaps a week. Jackson's keeping the ball, and they're always in 2nd and 2 or 2nd and 3 or 2nd and 4 because they're running on first down, they're running on second down. The games are shorter. It is a complete, we're sitting here watching a rugby match or Navy. It's a totally different look, and I can see where it could really be disruptive to another team's defense. And look, as much as you want to talk about Mahomes, you talk about the offense, we talk about Kareem on the field, off the field. This team's given up 87 points the last 2 weeks. I mean, but scored 98. I mean, it's just or 94, whatever the number is. It's outrageous the amount of points they're giving up as well, and that's a little dangerous against a team that is going to run, that's going to want to run, that has run, and that's the thing that the Chiefs don't do well. That's where the Ravens could make this a way shorter game where this thing's not going to get into the 50s. The Ravens want this game in the low 20s.
Yeah, and this is going to be one of those games that I think, depending on which team can dictate the pace of the game, is going to have a lot to say about the outcome. I mean, because if it's a game, especially if the Chiefs are able to get up early and make Baltimore have to play catch up, then that sort of plays in the Chiefs' favor because, one, they have, the high-powered offense. But then on top of that, then you let the Chiefs get into sort of pass rush mode, which is where they sort of, where they do their best. I mean, you have Dee Ford and Chris Jones, who are both in the top 9 in the league in sacks. And then Justin Houston, who's also another, proven pass rusher. He missed some games earlier in the season, but he's another guy that can get after the quarterback. So when they get into that mode, and they can get an offense one-dimensional, that's usually where they're at their best, and it seems like that would probably be, the toughest thing for Baltimore to adjust to have to play catch up and trying to keep pace with Mahomes and company. But at the same time, if they're able to, if Baltimore is able to control the clock, minimize the amount of attempts that, Mahomes and the guys get on the field, keep them on the sidelines and control the game, then, it could be a completely different game. So it's going to be the tempo, I think, is going to really be the deciding factor in how this thing plays out.
Yeah, we have gaudy stats around here for sacks, too, because we had 11 of them in one game against Marcus Mariota. And I know early in the year, Mahomes was stacking up these 5 TD, every week. When you start stacking up sacks like this, it really does speak to the other team is passing, and that's the way 95% of the league is rolling right now, throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game, which gives the opportunity to sack the quarterback. What's been the issue with them stopping the run? Because if they stop the run, to your point, this thing will be 21-3 nice and early, and then the Ravens will be talking about bringing Flacco back, because that would be their only opportunity to play catch-up would be Joe Flacco, and I've made no bones about it. I don't think we've seen the end of Joe Flacco around here. Whether he's even healthy enough to play this week remains to be seen, but when you see a team that has really struggled to stop the run, now not everybody runs the ball well. Right now the Ravens run the ball well because not only does your defense not know where the ball is going, the offense never knows where the ball is going until it goes there.
Well, and I think that the issue with the Chiefs has been consistency, because they've done it at times, but they just seem that it comes and goes. I mean, even this past week here with Oakland, the first half they had pretty much shut down Oakland's offense, and then they get a touchdown drive at the end of the half, and then the second half they score on all but one of their possessions, that being either a field goal or touchdown. But they scored every possession in the second half after, having looked like they couldn't get things together in the first half. And we've seen in the stretches of other games too, where it's, the run game, they'll have possessions, they'll have periods, whether it's a quarter or here or there where they can stop the run, and then it just, for whatever reason, they just get out of, whether it's get out of their lanes, get out of, not having the gap integrity. It's just not consistently a thing. It's been going on all season. But again, when you get up on teams and sometimes you're able to just sort of get into the pass rush mode, and that sort of, I don't want to say hides that, but it helps that.
Sure. Lynn Worthy joining us here. He is L Worthy Sports out on Twitter, at the Kansas City Star as well. And you can find him out anywhere the internet and Chiefs and the Kingdom are sold. So this is the dumb question. I'm going to ask the same question to all you Chiefs beat guys. What makes Mahomes so special at this point? And when did the light go on for you? I mean, I don't know that you were sitting around last year thinking, oh, this kid's the Messiah, any more than maybe people thought Tom Brady was the Messiah. And I know they were drafted differently and whatnot, but to see this kid immediately do this, I'm wondering at what point the light goes on to say, wow, we're on to something here.
Well, those first couple of games really made you say, well, maybe this is, legit, because he had 10 touchdowns after the first 2 games. And and they were, and it wasn't, just throwing to wide open guys or just like, give me touchdowns. It was, this guy's really, whether it's standing in the pocket and making tough throws, making throws in the coverage, throwing guys open, and being decisive with it. And then, going on further, then when you saw games like the Denver Monday night game where he had to make plays outside the pocket, outside of just the play design, and was able to do it and beat a team doing that and bounce back from a rough start, that really made you think, okay, this kid is, for real. Now, I think the thing that makes him, I guess the thing that really sets him apart, there's the arm strength, but you've seen guys before who had arm strength and couldn't get it done consistently. I think it's the combination of both, being able to make all the throws and then also be able to make plays. You hear different opposing coaches all season have talked about him being able to make plays when things get off schedule, and that there's not really a whole lot of coaching answer for that except for just staying after him. And I think that combination is what has made him, I don't want to say unstoppable, but even his bad games have been, or his tough games, he's still thrown for a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns and been able to, lead them to victory more often than not.
Lynn Worthy's our guest. We're talking all things Kansas City sports. We'll get into Andy Reid and the rest of that right after we tell you about Pizza John's. 50 years they've been doing it at 113 Back River Neck Road. If you're east side like me, you know all about it. I'm just holding up the logo to make you hungry and talking about it to make you hungry for the pepperoni and the cheesesteak and the ravioli. But if you've never been, get there. You'll see the difference. You'll know why you drove to Essex and what all the fuss is about at the edge of 702. Pizza John's, 113 Back River Neck Road. Also great gift cards for the holidays. Want to remind everybody about that. Lee Tessier is my realtor, our realtor, and Baltimore's premier realty team, and the folks I'm trusting with my real estate transaction. You can learn more about Lee and all that they do in Harford County and beyond, into Baltimore County, into the city where I am. LeeTessier.com, the way to learn about that. Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast, in the Royal Farms Arena, hosting a little Terps basketball this weekend as well. Make sure you're using the Royal Farms card, the rewards card, or the app. The app on the phone, so easy to do. Pump your gas. You'll get your Western fries, your fried chicken adding up for free in no time when you get your rewards points at ROFO. Also pick up some eggnog. 'Tis the season with the Cloverland eggnog, as the cow says moo at Royal Farms. Lynn Worthy here. He is L Worthy Sports. You can find him at Kansas City Star. And, of course, the Ravens headed in there. How are we doing with Andy Reid out there? It's this is always a fascinating get-together because of John Harbaugh's links to Andy Reid. And certainly Andy unceremoniously chased out of Philadelphia after a long time. Many reports around here after the bye week about John Harbaugh's future here. It's been 11 years. You know, there's a time and a place for all of this, but certainly for Andy Reid, it feels like a second life with Mahomes. It feels like he's not going anywhere anytime soon. And I think people around the league really pull for Andy Reid. Andy Reid's one of the good guys in the sport, I think.
Hey, I mean, you mentioned Harbaugh, and I think earlier this season, Andy reached it was 200 career wins, and there was a video where they had a lot of his former assistants, from Harbaugh to Shermer to a bunch of the different guys in different places who are now head coaches, or who had been with him at one point in time, just sort of congratulating him. And I think that just his connection to a lot of different coaches, and then obviously having coached for Holmgren and being part of that coaching tree. I mean, just this past week with Gruden, those two guys started back on Holmgren staff a long time ago, back in '92 in Green Bay. I think that's part of it, but then just the fact that he's had success for a long period of time. I think coaches really respect, a guy who's been able to do it in different places, had success as, whether it's a coordinator, position coach, and obviously as a head coach. So yeah, he's a guy that I think people, they recognize that, he might not be on that pedestal because he hasn't won the Super Bowls, but he's had a lot of success for a lot of years in different ways.
But I think he's going to have a chance over the next 2, 3, 4 years, at least, with his kid. He's got a chance this year. You mentioned his tree. I'm actually reading from your website at kansascity.com. Harbaugh, Rivera, Spagnuolo, Bowles, Peterson, McDermott, Nagy, and, some of these guys, the Harbaughs and the Petersons, have sort of one-upped them by winning, right? Brad Childress, Leslie Frazier, Pat Shermer, and on and on and on, right? So it goes down the list. And this, I don't want to say his best chance when he had Donovan McNabb and they were actually on the field trying to win, but this is a pretty good chance here and the beginning of a real opportunity. And you mentioned some of these veterans coming back, and Eric Berry, who's a special guy and a cancer survivor who I've gotten to know through Ed Block a little bit as well. There is that part of it, that there is sort of a cavalry coming over the hill here over the last quarter of the year, and they're going to need it. I mean, there's a dogfight with the Chargers. You got the Chargers coming up 4 days after we're in. Then we go out to San Diego and play. So, the Ravens are going to be in the middle of determining the AFC West, and certainly these teams are going to be in the middle of determining whether the Ravens make the playoffs or not.
Yeah. I mean, the Chiefs definitely have a stretch coming up. Whether you got the Ravens, you also have the Chargers again, and and they'll also play against Seattle. So I mean, there's a stretch of games where you can't just show up and expect to win, especially after the game this past week in Oakland. I mean, obviously that was a 40-33, and there was a stretch there where it looked like Oakland had all the momentum, except for a turnover. Then maybe that game turns a different way, or it's a lot tighter at the end. So yeah, it's not, nothing's, I don't think anybody's taking anything for granted. I think, in the big picture too, the Chiefs know that right now they've got a lot of young guys who are on those sort of team-friendly contracts. So they sort of need to make some hay, in this short period of time here, because in the NFL, obviously, things change really quickly with just an off season.
It'll get all different when you have to pay Mahomes $25 million a year like we did Flacco. Then things change a little bit. Lynn Worthy's here. He is L. Worthy Sports out in Kansas City. And last thought on the game itself and on the matchup that concerns us on our side is when the other team's best player is a receiver, we have really struggled with that. And part of that has been Jimmy Smith being injured, and part of that wasn't having a complimentary guy. I would say the one thing that's really stepped up here in the last month has been the play of the secondary, from Weddle and Jefferson, who've gone from old and not looking so good to looking better, and certainly all of that happens when you have the full complement of the backside with a Brandon Carr. But Travis Kelce and 87 and where's 87 and every key third down and whatever it is opportunity. That's been the problem for the Ravens for a long, long time, going back 5 years now, where tight ends who get loose really create problems for these linebackers and safeties across the middle. And we speculated all week long that this might be something where, a corner runs with him all day because they're going to need someone big and strong to run with him because he could literally just take over the game. Maybe you'd say, well, it's Mahomes, but it'll be Mahomes to Kelce if the Ravens wind up losing this game by a couple of touchdowns.
Well, the thing that the Chiefs have really done all season is they make you make tough decisions on how you're going to cover people, because you've got Tyreek Hill, who's, probably the fastest player in the NFL, who if you put him one-on-one, then he's, more often than not, that's a matchup the Chiefs are going to like and that he's probably going to win. And then you've got Kelce, who's just a matchup problem, or he's proven himself a matchup problem for defensive backs, linebackers, whoever it is that you put on him. It seems like one way or another he can sort of win that matchup, whether it's with size or being faster and quicker than some of these linebackers. And I've seen him even, the run after the catch has been one of the biggest things he's hurt teams with too. So making people make decisions and then taking advantage of the matchups has been a key thing for the Chiefs all season. And then, if Watkins plays, and that's another option as far as a guy who you have to worry about how you match up with him.
Hey, man, appreciate the time. I'm looking forward to watching this one, and I'm not making it to Kansas City this weekend. I'm on a little personal development course here this weekend, but if things go well, just like I've told my friends down in Houston here this week, I have a feeling if the Ravens go right, we'll be seeing you somewhere along the line, because I know Kansas City has designs on buys and home games and all that stuff well into January. So keep the barbecue warm for me out there, Lynn. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Lynn Worthy, L. Worthy Sports, the way to find him out on Twitter and at the Kansas City Star as we prepare for a really heady matchup for the Ravens and for Lamar Jackson. I mean, this is a team that's lost 2 games to the Patriots and the Rams on the road, and the Patriots and the Rams might be the teams in the Super Bowl. They might be the teams with the number 1 seeds, and they lost both of those games by 3 points, and certainly the Rams game was an epic Monday night duel a few weeks ago, back before Thanksgiving. But Luke's out on the fields in Owings Mills. We get you covered all week long. We're out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. If you miss anything at all, the kids call it podcasting. You listen to what you want, where you want, how you want. You can also listen live. It is the buyatoyota.com audio vault. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.